Hello, everyone. This is Indie Vote Special Issues. I am your host, Varian Grant. I've got a great panel here for you today. We're going to be talking to these gentlemen about special issues in indie comics. We've got a couple different issues we're going to bring up. Of course, the chat will be able to weigh in on them, and we may even put the number up for you guys to call in, depending on how things go. It's a pretty quick moving, fast paced show, but we do want to tackle the issues and give them the respect that some of them deserve. We're going to roll the intro, and then we will let the panel introduce themselves. Here we go. And we are live. Thank you, everyone. Again, special issues. I am your host, Varian Grant, and I got a panel here with me today. Max Steele from Atrocity Press, Joe D. McPhee from Exegesis Studios, and Larry Higgins, creator of Niobe. And they are going to be our panelists today as we discuss these special issues. Thank you for being here with us today. Now, let's go first with the first topic, which was there have been people who have said they would like to have a union in comics. The comics creators should have unions. Their argument is that it will make for better health care. It will make for better wages. And I can see doubt crossing over all of your faces as I say it. Joe, I don't know if Joe, can I mention that you have a position like that?
Yeah. Well, I am a union steward for a different organization here for my 9 to 5 job, so I have a different perspective on this. But I will defer to my other colleagues first before I say my piece on it.
Well, let me let the guys introduce themselves real quick. Max, you go first.
I'm Max DeVille from Atrocity Press. We publish comic books like Mary Machine Gun and Neo Tokyo, The Truth is a Virus. We've got a couple new ones coming up. We've got Mary Machine Gun issue 2 coming up in June. So,
and
jump on that. Larry, you're muted.
Oh, am I muted?
Am I a boomer, Max? Am I a boomer? What? Still?
No, you're fine.
You're fine. You're good.
Yeah. So
Larry.
LP. Yeah. Comics. Niobe Comics, man. If you watch Sunday nights, you know I do Niobe. Here's a quick look, man. Sneak peek. Of look. We're gonna talk about something sexy a little later, right? There we go. I'm ready for a talk, Varian. Man, I can't wait.
And then we have Joe D. McPhee. Sorry, my messages are blowing up. Now we have Joe D. McPhee as well. Joe.
Yes, I'm Joe D. McPhee. I'm president of Exegesis Studios, creator of Amazonia Primetime Saturday Night and AWF here. Pretty much, I'm just here to give my opinion on certain things here.
And of course, I'm Varian Grant. You can see the beautiful city of Detroit behind me. That's actually someone's downtown loft. I know exactly where this building is. We actually almost put an office in there for Indie Vault, but we decided not to because they couldn't take renters at the time. Yeah. Well, that's a whole other story for another day. However, today's story is we're talking about unionization, and the first thing that Scott Wilson, the Flock comic, asked, "Who's paying for the union?" That's a a concern that Joe brought up, which was that, remember, guys, you want a union. There's a thing called union dues, and you must pay it. There's no, I can't afford it this week. There's no, I'm not paying. You have to pay it. Go ahead, guys. I'll let you guys have it.
Why? I need to back this up a little bit, right? Where did this idea even spawn from, that we should have a union in comic books? And how would that union work where everyone is essentially an independent entity?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think a lot of it comes from people just not knowing how unions work. They think that a union could offer protection, and there's a point where yes, it can. I've worked in environments and I've worked in plants where there was a union, and they do offer protection and a bit of security to the employees. There's no denying that. However, in a situation where you have a lot of independent contractors, it's not going to benefit anyone. I don't think it's going to be hard to maintain.
Well, it's not even just being an independent contractor. That'd be like if I was writing for Max or doing art for Max. I'm essentially an independent contractor being hired by Max. So, gun for hire, mercenary, right? But, in our situations, I'm my own business. He is his own business. We hire our own. He hires his set of mercenaries. I hire my set of mercenaries. Why would me and Max need to be unionized is the question.
Mm-hmm. I believe so that you guys will, or if one of you does something to the other that it's untoward, that union representation could be had. Or what are you going to say, Joe?
I was about to say, to answer Larry's question, it's not technically for the individuals, like the scenario that he brought up here. It's more for the scenarios like, let's say that you got hired by Boom. You're still an individual entity. Boom is a corporation.
I'm following you so far. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to be unionized in that case, because that way Boom cannot just treat you any sort of way in the long run. But for that's a major difference between if I hired you. That's more of like a one-on-one. I'm a small guy, you're a small guy. We'll work whatever we got to work out. There's not going to be anything major gripage as far as, if anything does come up. But when you deal with a larger entity that can hire multiple individuals, you want somebody to be, the people thinking is that you want something unionized there for the larger corporation. Think about what happened with Kickstarter just recently. They just recently unionized because because again, Kickstarter is a major corporation. Their employees felt some type of way that they was not getting a fair shake, so they decide to band together to unionize to come up with one set of work standards and everything to that magnitude. So it's not necessarily.
What you're suggesting would be like, these comic book publishing companies should have their own unions within their company.
I would be okay with that. Because it wouldn't affect indies.
But like Marvel has their union. Like my mother worked for Meat Plant. They had their union. You know what I mean? Scott the Flock Wilson's in the chat. He's talking about in his day job, he's part of a union. And unions have been talked about in various other businesses, especially when it comes to the realm of independent contractors. Let's look at wrestling, right? How often have you heard that complaints that WWE should be unionized, and the argument is, but we're all independent contractors. You know what I mean?
Yes and no. Yes and no, because WWE treats all of their stars as individual contractors, but WWE owns the right and privileges to all of the intellectual properties that these individuals are performing, which is a little bit different. That's a little bit too much control. That's the reason why unionization comes up with WWE.
Well, it'll be the same thing if I work for Marvel, though. If I work for Marvel and I make a character in one of their books, I don't own that property. Marvel does. You know what I mean? It'd be the same thing.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And when WWE, the reason why it's a little bit differently, your real name is Larry, right?
That's right.
Once you become a superstar in WWE, you no longer can go by Larry. They control that.
In some cases,
the one thing they don't own is your real name. That's why the Ultimate Warrior actually changed his name to Warrior, so he could use it. You know what I mean?
But up under your contract, you can't go by your real name anymore until that contract is over. And if you're considered an independent contractor, they have no rights and titles to that. They should not be able to dictate to you that you can't use your real name of Larry. You don't constantly have to be known as the Naomi Comics guy each and every
Now,
day.
Max, you were going to say
That's the
something.
difference. You go ahead, Barry.
Yeah, well, first off, is this is for the industry, not for independent comics? Is what you're saying? I
Well,
thought it
it'll
said I thought it said indie comics, because like everyone's been saying, I don't have people that I've hired. I have independent contractors. Everyone's an independent contractor that works for me. So, I mean, when I make a contract with somebody, we make a contract. If you're not happy with your contract, we can renegotiate your contract, but we made this contract before, so why are you not happy with it now? Now, if there's something else that like you want a percentage of these characters that you created or something, then sure, we can talk about that. But it's kind of like I paid for it to get created. So I have to own part of it.
I guess we're just not really understanding what they want from this union and who would be in this union.
Well,
you know what I mean?
well,
Like,
I've seen.
That's a good point, Larry. We don't know, but
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
from the more professional side of things, people who work for the bigger companies, they're the ones screaming for the union because of the way that those larger corporations treat talent. Now,
Yeah,
as
I mean,
independents like you or myself, we don't have the same problems. But as far as the bigger industry is concerned, would it be beneficial? And I'm up there like,
well, the minute you start doing that, though, then you kind of lose your creative freedom in a sense, because now you're at the mercy of the union as well, and so mob rule mentality starts to come into play. I would think.
Yeah, I would venture to ask how unionization would hurt or even change how people are paid. We just seen he's been in the news a lot lately. J. Scott Campbell. I read something that said he gets about 16 to 20K per cover. If that's true, he's not gonna want to join the union. Where
I
now our
retract my
wages,
offer, Mr. Campbell.
where he's gonna have to, like if someone offers him like, I mean, imagine going from being able to get 5,000 a cover, and all of a sudden someone coming to you saying, "Hey, yeah, so you joined the union. By the way, now you have to go by this standard. It's $500 a cover now."
yeah.
Well, I can tell you
Union
this.
rate
I
is
paid.
this.
Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Max.
So union rate is X, and you have to pay that, or you have to get paid that.
Yeah.
It's
I certainly don't believe that cover price should be regulated. Let's put it that way. If that's what the union would do, I paid all kinds of different prices for covers, anywhere from fucking. Oh, sorry, I don't want to swear. Anywhere from free to up to $1,000. For top tier guys, right? The fact that J. Scott Campbell charges that much blows my mind. I was picturing maybe 2 or 3 grand. You know what I mean?
I mean, 16 to 20. Who's gonna make? How's he making? How's whoever's selling that book making any money off of it?
Oh, they can.
But then again, here's the reason why it's 16 grand. And this is after, it's like some of you know that I have actually got covers done by Greg Horn, and I paid up into thousands for that. But when you pay 16 grand, you're really buying all his rights away from that piece of work.
Yeah,
which means that you can reproduce it in any type of way that you want. He can't do anything. He can't do anything with it. He can't make prints of it or anything like that. That's the reason why it's 16 grand.
You got some comments in the chat here, Varian. Some great people here. Big Daddy Bowser. You have Marv Studio and special appearance by Mr. none other than Brian K. Morris himself.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Bowser, Big Daddy Bowser said, indie comics have no place in a union unless it comes with a perk like contract negotiations or benefits. I think we can all agree to that. I don't think I could see them trying to bleed their way over and becoming more like agencies after a while. But and Scott says, honestly, though, unions have no power anymore. And there's something to be said about that too. Marv says, question: let's say indies create a union. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow. That means artists will be able to sell more easily outside the U.S. They lose a lot of money because the shipping is very high. I back only digital. If they did create, I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, you'd be able to sell your comics a little bit more easily, but that can be handled with a good distribution company as well, or a good distribution model. That could help you as well, not just unionization. In fact, it might become a little bit more harder for you because unions are known to block stuff too. Oh, that's their territory. You can't. It gets kind of rough. And Brian says,
go ahead.
It's probably because of rates paid to Campbell because he can sell comics that guys like him might not support a union. The publishers will stop publishing rather than pay everyone those rates. Yeah, because they're not going to go up. They're going to go down. They're going to say, I'm not paying. Like if Larry charges $1,000 a story and I come to Larry and say, hey, Larry, it's now industry rates. We're going by the Gawker model, 10 cents a word. He just watches revenue drop significantly. He's no longer going to want to write for us. In fact, he's going to, all the Canadian politeness would drop.
Yeah, we all go on strike at that point. It'd be like a union strike,
Yeah. I'm not writing anything. I'm not putting out any books.
The next comment is the interesting one that I'm glad that he touched upon it for Flock Comics. Next one down after Brian.
Okay,
It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense too.
Let me go over there and get it because
the one that said part-time world versus full-time world.
All right, let's go here. Sorry, this computer here is a little slower than.
Not that one. Not that one.
There we go. Yeah. Sorry about that. Part-time world versus full-time world. Same groups are in the same union members, but the part-timers number higher than the full-timers. So if contract comes up, the part-timers affect full-timer livelihood.
And that's true.
Yeah,
that is 100% true in unions, especially in the one that I'm in for my 9 to 5. It's like part-timers or as part-timers and fair share affects the contract more than anything else versus full-fledged members. It becomes a problem. It does become a problem because those individuals want different things than those that are full-time or full paying due members.
That's a very good point. I mean, who would control it? It would not work in indie comics, especially what if someone leaves the union? Do they stick representation outside of it? Bouncing from union to union isn't wise. In fact, it's frowned upon in the auto industry. So
it'll be like leaving the Writers Guild. You right for Hollywood and you're part of the Writers Guild. Now all of a sudden you leave, you're like this rogue agent,
Yeah.
See, that'd be all right with me because I wouldn't use a union crew.
I just think it's such a mute point. Like it's never going to happen. So maybe it happens in the corporations, but I mean, amongst us small fry, you know what I mean? Like it's never going to happen. Come on,
there's no one to enforce it.
Well, let me wrap it up like this for you guys, and just you can say yes or no. But everyone kind of runs their own press, their own publishing company, their own LLC. The dream is to get it a little bit bigger, maybe, where you can actually maybe afford some employees. How would you feel if you found out your employees were considering unionizing your publishing company?
Richard, stop making a union on me, okay? Like the one guy that comes to the house and helps me out and he gets like a slice of pizza and a couple of beer. Don't unionize against me, bro.
Unionize for he wants a whole pizza. He wants a whole pizza.
That's right. He wants an extra slice on his contract,
Yeah. So you just
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question for two reasons. One, I'm not an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, I explained that last time on subchapter. And so technically, I have to think Marvel and DC like. So if somebody tried to form a union on me, it's like, okay, fine. Everybody now becomes work for hire. I don't have to have employees anymore. I can always pull that. Like I said, self-employed individual contractors is the way that most corporations get around that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's that Max is right. If major comics unionize, they would either go all reprints and just hire non-paid fans to do, for fun and credit. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
We would just go off the reservation. It's like if we want something done, we will find people who will be will do self-employment or individual contract. You don't have to be an employee of its agency studios. You don't have to be an employee of the corporation as a whole.
Exactly.
He says, "This is give him an extra slice of pizza, Larry. He can have for breakfast."
Yeah. I think more generous, Baron. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
1099 contractor.
Yeah, Mike says I'm seriously slick. Yeah, I have to just clean up for this show. Bristolian Day says unionization wouldn't work in this industry. There are more than enough people to fill the slots. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of scabs sitting right there in Artist Alley. Any convention, you can replace them
Look,
quick.
my mother, who worked for this meat plant for 30 years, started off as a scab. She crossed the picket line when the family first moved here, so she could, have a job and raise the kids. And then as time went on, they accepted her and she became part of the union and blah, 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 blah. And then even I worked for them, but I worked for them as a part-timer, so I wasn't even allowed in the union at that point. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, there are always going to be people willing to work. She was willing to cross that picket line and everyone was mad at her for years until she earned the respect. You know what I mean? It's just the way it goes.
Scott says, you are on a contract. I pay you for art and that's it. You want benefits and pay for it with the money I pay you. He says, I'm sorry. I got heated a bit there. I hate my union. They're corrupt and they suck. And they suck a particular instrument. Where I stand on being a scab, DC, I'm available for to write your Superman books on a moment's notice. Hashtag call me, says Brian. Yeah, I worked in a factory. I worked in a factory for a while, and I was told something I find now to be quite illegal, was that we had partial representation. We paid full benefits that had partial representation, and that meant that the union would back us up, but not fully. Our next chapter, our next topic is one that we talked about, Joe and I talked about briefly, but it's is there a crowdfunding problem? Are publishers and creators starting to rely way too heavily on crowdfunding?
I got a problem. I'm addicted to crowdfunding.
Addicted, you say? You might have to get help, man. You might. What do you think? Do you have a business model outside of crowdfunding, though, Larry? Like, if tomorrow, the Canadian government decided you can no longer access not GoFundMe, Indiegogo or Kickstarter, how would you handle that?
Well, I've already sort of started the ball to sort of handle that, right? I submitted Niobe to Antarctic Press. They like the story. They're going to print it in Exciting Comics 18, which kind of sort of opens the door for publication for more Niobe with them if it does well and they like it. You know what I mean? So in that sense, I could go that route, and try and pursue that, like just get the story published by a publisher, via Antarctic Press, Absolute Comics, Image, whoever will take you aboard, right? And you can just, sort of go that route. Now, let's say, though, I didn't have that at all, right? I didn't have a foot in the door. I don't have access to a publishing company. And I'm just strictly relying right now on crowdfunding. It would ultimately kill me if crowdfunding shut down. Like the comic would be over if I didn't have, Antarctic Press to sort of maybe help lean on and get my book out there through Diamond, So do we rely on it? Yeah, but we also have some other options, and a lot of people are doing other options right now. For example, you have Iconic Comics that was essentially started by Doug Ernst, and Tim Lim is selling Common America on there. They're doing gangbuster numbers, man. Their own site, pre-order books, sort of take it right out of the hands of Indiegogo and Kickstarter. I started eBay, just over the course of 2 days, I sold $200 worth of stuff. Right. There's Gumroad stores, there's Patreon, there's all sorts of other sort of models, but crowdfunding does seem to be the number one source that we use right now.
Do you think that like I see people they put the books up, and there'll be flexible goals or they don't fund, and they they kind of put that comic book dream away. Which scares me because it's like, well, how many great stories aren't we getting? How many good comics aren't we getting because the person doesn't get funded? And does that happen with a second or third printing or third issue of the book? Do we just get a discontinued story? When I got into comics, I was making them out of my own pocket because the crowdfunding was not available to me back in 06, 07, I guess. It wasn't available. Crowdfunding was standing on the corner with a can, shaking it. And now we could go to the internet and say, hey, do you guys want this book? Max, how about you? Do you have any ideas outside of crowdfunding?
We're already working on a few things that we've got outside of crowdfunding. We got it to where we've got a lot of the shops in the Midwest that are carrying our books that I've just called and talked to myself and got people to carry our books. really, I mean, crowdfunding, it's where it's at right now. You know, if crowdfunding went away, then there would be something else that's be where
There'd be
it's
a
at
lot
right
less
now.
comic books, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there definitely would be. But like, kind of like, I think Varian said it, that he paid to have it produced first, and that's what we do. We produce the comic first, and then the crowdfund kind of pays us back for the money that we put forward on creating the comic, and pays for the shipping for people to get them. But I mean, even with DC and Marvel leaving Diamond, I think Diamond, there's still going to be a place for Diamond. I could definitely probably get Atrocity Press into Diamond, and if we did that, we just have to adjust our budget for our thing and just have more. We'd have to put much more money into a marketing campaign for each of the books.
And Joe, you and crowdfunding, you've been quite vocal about crowdfunding.
Yeah, I've been quite vocal about crowdfunding. It's like I'm not against it. But I'm also not for it either. And that's maybe because of my background. I was here before crowdfunding. You know, we survived way before crowdfunding. We got distributed before crowdfunding through Comixology. You know, I see all these other avenues for revenue, where crowdfunding is just one out of many that's out there that can be used here. So if crowdfunding ended today, it would not hurt me. But where I would say it would hurt the majority at is that for those who are not willing to put that money behind themselves and we're trying to create a comic that way, it would hurt them. Because I'm up here, I see so many books that are out there on these crowdfunding platforms that are somewhere between 10 to 50% done, that unless they get funded, that book does not come into existence. And to me, that's a problem within crowdfunding. Granted, there might be people's dream to put out their own book, but at the end of the day, to quote Michael Oden to a degree, you still have to put skin in the game. You still have to put your own behind it. And if you're not willing to do that, then how you expect others to truly back you on a platform that requires you to show how dedicated you are behind that book?
I totally agree with him. That's 100%. Because it's like that's one of when we first started with Atrocity Press, we're like, we're going to put our money forward. That way people understand that we're serious. We're going to do this. It's going to happen.
And even you don't like some of the money that you get from your previous campaign, you can put it back into your book, your next book. So maybe
it goes back into the next book.
Maybe you aren't asking that much. Larry, I see you're sharing a screen. Should I bring that up now?
I am. Yeah,
okay.
Go ahead. So, you know, yes, there's lots of other avenues to crowdfund, right? They're harder though, right? I mean, you can gun it alone. You can knock down comic book shops doors and try and offer your books to them one at a time. You know, you can try a Patreon. That only a handful of people really sort of make it on Patreon. Like Brian Ball from Rags has like a really well-established Patreon, and that's sort of his main revenue. But I've seen other people try it and fail. Crowdfunding is on fire, right? And my opinion is this is probably the best way as an independent, comic book creator to get your book out there. And this just kind of shows, it's not overnight success though. I'll tell you, you got to put in the time. From Niobe #1, from barely $2,000 Canadian, it slowly went up, right? Every year, a little bit more backers, a little bit more money, right? A little bit more backers, a little bit more money, so on and so forth. Until like we really start to take off, and we went from here to here, we were all black and white. The minute we went to color, we doubled our money from there and doubled our backers almost. And then when we did the second one, bam, you know what I mean? That's our best campaign we ever ran. 5 figures, almost 400 backers. A lot more people know more about Niobe, I would dare say, because of Kickstarter than probably any other source.
Do you think that? Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to ask Larry one question.
Let's
take Niobe. Was that Birchlight #2? After that campaign, where can a person get that book?
They well, I mean, you
Do
can
they have to
always
wait to that next Kickstarter campaign before they get it?
so during that time, yes. I mean, now it's a little bit different, right? Now we have the Gumroad store, and we've had the older issues up on there. The ones that I have left. People have always contacted me privately. Hey, can I just PayPal you some money and I can buy a book? I've just also started to utilize eBay. So that too will be an option. But we also did, Indiegogo. So if someone didn't actually make it to the Kickstarter, well, guess what? There was a second crowdfunding site and second campaign chance that you had. You know what I mean? So two avenues right there for each book, right? I mean, we didn't start that till number 4, but I mean, that is in our staple now. It's Kickstarter first, boom, Indiegogo second, boom. Then we open up, we put it all on the web store, we throw it up on eBay. We say that it's out here, the extras are here, they're for you, and then we're off to the next book, man.
Yeah, so you'd be surprised of how many people that don't go that route. That's the reason why I'm against it, because you went the correct route. You made it available after a campaign. Some people won't do even that, and that's a problem within itself. You're leaving money on the table if you do it.
Yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, like some people think that you're going to crowdfund and you're going to do what I did on the top, right? And they get disappointed when they don't. I had to put in 7 years just to get to there, and I still feel like I'm just starting. You know what I mean?
7 years. That's
7 years.
It's a long time. Yeah, and I had lunch with Brandon Gleckley, who hosts Pitches Be Crazy here on Indie Vault, and we talked about that, and we also talked about a bit yesterday after the show, how a lot of creators after that first campaign, they stop. There's nowhere to get their book, and then they have a catch-up tier, which is fine. But if you're maybe that person they don't have the money to get your catch-up tier, maybe because it's $40-$50, they've got 20. They're willing to get your first issue. There's nowhere for them to get it except for that catch-up tier. So if they're not priced out, let's say they do buy the catch-up tier, you're not going to ship that issue 1 until that second book is ready. And if it's 4 to 5 months away, that's time. A lot of people just forget about the book. I'm not going to buy it. Forget it. I'll come back to it. Maybe he'll have a deal when it's ready or it's closer to being out. So I think leaving that money out there is a big mistake that a lot of creators are making. I'm not telling anybody how to run their business. Do what works for you, but remember, have those books out so people can buy them. That's what you made them for, right? You're not collecting them. I remember a gentleman looked at he was a business consultant, and he came to my office, and he noticed that I had a big, huge bundle of business cards on my desk. And I said, yeah, I forget to give those out. And he says, well, are you collecting your own business card? Give them to everybody. Shove them in their pockets if you have to. That could get you. You could go to jail for that, by the way. Don't shove anything in anyone's pocket. But I thought about that. Like, I should have been handing that business card out to anybody with a hand. And so if you're trying to sell those books, make sure you have somewhere available for them. Distribution channels, your own storefront, your own e-storefront, whatever you got to do to get that book out there, go ahead and do it. You're going to be happier in the long run.
And to answer the actual question, like, do we rely on it too much? I would think the answer for a lot of people is yes, right? I rely on it quite a bit, obviously. If it went away, man, what a hard climb that would be. Everything get expensive because crowdfunding, I'm at a point now where it sort of pays for itself, but it didn't start that way. You know what I mean? It was a lot of money coming out of pocket to try and make this, dream come true, and crowdfunding greatly helped with that. If I had to do it just strictly out of my own pocket, I don't know if I could afford to do it, but I mean, now I can because I built it, but I mean, just starting out, so I think we do rely on crowdfunding, especially starting out. Now, as you grow and you get bigger and you open up the other doors and other platforms and people get to know you a little bit more and they get more used to your book and the title, then they start coming to you and then you can do your Gumroad store, your Patreons and stuff like that, right? But just coming out of the gate, yeah, we're really relying on crowdfunding right now.
Marv V asks, Varian, have you thought of creating your own crowdfunding company? No, I see what happens when you do that, Marv. I'll stay out of that market. I don't want no parts of that.
I almost played the clip.
Yeah, I want no parts of that market. And finally, our final topic is everyone's seen this week. J. Scott Campbell was taken to task by a person going by the name of non-binary Finn Martins, which is Finn Martins, I guess, is a character from Adventure Time. but this person corrected J. Scott Campbell's artwork, fixed it how they felt the artwork should have looked.
The fix is in, brother.
Yeah, yeah, and well, that went viral. And then something else happened a couple of days later where J. Scott Campbell himself, the artist, fixed the fix.
Yeah,
And and that went even more viral. And we've been talking about it, but it led to another conversation. And I've seen it online. I've seen it on Twitter. A lot of pages that Indie Vote follows, where artists and people who are involved in the comic industry are splitting off into sides. Jay Scott was right. No, Finn was right. Well, they're both petty. I've seen every position you can imagine has been filled by someone. But the most vocal group is the group saying that, hey, you know what? The comics are becoming too sexualized. The females in the comics don't look like real women. Where are their organs? And of course, when I thought about that, I'm like, oh, they're going to come after people that I know. Jody McPhee has a comic where he's got all women wrestlers. He's going to have to deal with this at some point. And of course, Larry Higgins has a bad girl comic, Niobe. And Max, you've got Mary Machine Gun. I mean, you've got women running around showing leg and thigh and everything else. You guys are going to be affected by this in the long run. You need to desexualize those characters, guys. First of all, are you doing it? What are your plans on doing it? How are you going to do it? We'll start with Matt. Okay.
Go ahead, Larry.
Dude, I've been waiting for this one all day, man. Look, first, I'm going to start off first with this. This isn't anything new. This has been going on since, I first got wind of it in 2014, I noticed a changing of the guard in that regard when it came down to an artist named Milo Manera, okay? And I should go grab it, but Milo Manera did a bunch of covers for Marvel, all beautiful women, all great pieces of art. And then he did the infamous Spider-Woman cover, okay? Mm-hmm. And when that Spider-Woman cover came out, and she had her butt high up in the air, there was a social media outcry. It was one of the first times I heard a social media outcry, really. Yeah. And that's when the sexualization came, and that's when essentially a lot of feminists came in and didn't quite agree with that art. They wanted Marvel to ban it. Now, the book made publication. It came out. I have it. But Milo Manera at that point was essentially, if we want to use the term, canceled. He's never drawn a cover for Marvel since. Okay. And then that started the ball rolling. That started happening with other covers. There was one cover done with Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen. And the way the Goblin Queen used to be drawn was she would wear this sort of dark leather suit, and you see kind of like her underboob. Well, there was an image that made solicitation to Diamond Magazine. And this was, again, 2014, 15, and there was a big outcry. This one didn't actually make it to print. They changed it. They covered her up at the bottom, right? There was an artist that worked for Zenescope named Francisco who agreed with me when I stated my disdain for censorship, because that's exactly what was going on. This is what J. Scott Campbell is actually fighting, is censorship in art, okay? And so they censored Madeline Pryor's original costume for something that would appease the people that were complaining. What Francisco said was essentially Marvel just took a black marker and drew over it. Okay. That's what happened. So this has been nothing new. This has been ongoing. And I've, ever since Niobe #1 in 2015, I've had those very same attacks. They kind of stopped on me around 2018 because the people that were on my Facebook are no longer there. I've removed them, but at the same time, they also knew that I wasn't really going to put up with it. I have the J. Scott Campbell sort of attitude, and I'm a J. Scott Campbell fanboy first and foremost. I'll also tell you that is that I don't believe that any art really should be censored. I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on. I think art is art and art is subjective. And if you don't like art, it's like turning the channel on a show you don't like. You don't have to you look at it, and you don't have to buy it. Max.
Yeah. Well, are my characters sexy? Yeah. Are they sexualized? I don't know. I don't think there's no sex in my books so far. So, now there can be the poses that they stand in can be very sexual, and that can be sexualized, I suppose. And then Larry's right in one way that things have been doing this for a long time, because this has always been the whole wear your organs thing. That's kind of new, but the whole women are too sexy in comics, that's been going on since the 60s.
Yeah, it has, and I think that we have a problem where I have a character I based off one of my best friends, and she told me, she said, "Hey, why are the breasts so large?" And I told her, I said, "Well, because your breasts are like that." She's like, "No, they're not." And I had to tell her, "Look, I know we're good friends, but I've stared at your breasts extensively, and
Yes.
that is the breast to shoulder ratio that you have." Now she's self conscious of her breasts, by the way, because now she thinks she's walking around with. They're not subway stoppers, but um, they are pretty big. And I try to draw her accurately. And if someone ever comes to me and says, "Hey, this can't exist," no, that's a friend of mine. She exists. She's built
It's
that
for
way.
real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Joe, you got a comic where not only are women dressed, are they scantily clad, they are inflicting violence upon one another.
Mhm.
Are you ready for the onslaught?
No, you can never be ready for the onslaught because one, I don't control sexy. I don't control what is considered sexualized or not. The individual person who's looking at the piece of artwork does. And it's senseless to me to have to bow down to something of that magnitude. It's like, again, I could have the same character dressed up in a wrestling outfit. Oh, that's too sexualized. But then I could put clothes on her, still over sexualized. Does not make a difference one way or the other. We don't control how others view our creations here. The second thing that pisses me off more so than anything is the fact that people are giving too much attention on something that is made up in fantasy. Comics is based upon fantasy. It's not based upon reality. The
That's
fact
true.
that there's an outcry for more realistic women, okay, fine. We could do that. But when we do that, we're going to put that image out there and it's going to be just like a mirror. Those things that you don't like about yourself is now going to be exposed because why? You're going to relate to it when that image is put in front of you. If you don't like that image, that's something that should be an indicator that you need to go back and take self inventory of self on why you don't like that image, as opposed to going after the artist or the creator for making that image in the first place.
But now you just said something that I don't know if Larry agrees with. You say that you don't have sexy, you don't control sexy. Larry, on the other hand, he will say, "Hey, I've created this sexy cover. This is sexy to me, and to most."
But it's not sexy to me. That's the thing. He
Yeah,
controls that. He
yeah.
controls what
Well,
he thinks is sexy.
and he's right in the sense of like, what I find sexy, he might not find sexy, right? I mean, again, that's like art is subjective, but I don't really control sexy. I can say I want sexy, and then the artist controls sexy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, look, let's product placement. This to me, this is sexy. To someone else, this might not be. Okay, art is subjective. Okay, I think it's a beautiful piece by Mr. Paul Green. I have no problem putting this on the shelf. In fact, this was our best seller. This is the reason why the last campaign did $16,000. And I'll tell you also. I'll tell you this: more women bought this probably than men. Max has a book, Mary Machine Gun, you had mentioned. He also has Neo Tokyo, which just ended on Kickstarter. The sexiest cover on that campaign was drawn by a woman, Maria Benes. Okay.
Yep.
And this goes to, what Nefarious is saying in the chat. And if you don't mind, I'll read it. He says,
Yeah.
I don't think it's the sexuality of the subject matter or setting, is the male gaze these fixers are obsessed with. They want to put an end to the male fantasy in comics, right? And I would say those haters probably have that mission in mind. But what they don't realize is that a lot of women artists, Sabine Rich, Ula Moss, Ni Rafino, okay, the list goes on, probably draw women sexier than men do.
Well, I was actually talking to my wife about that today, and she goes, because we were talking, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on the Indie Vault later talking about over sexualization of women in comics, and he goes, women draw sexier women than men do because I think men are scared to draw the sex to go full force and draw it super sexy anymore.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
women
yeah.
aren't.
I'll tell you, Lola draws some outfits on women that I'm like, how does that go on? How does that,
How do you
yeah,
wear that?
yeah. Russ is in the chat and he says censorship is never a good thing. Freedom of expression is required for art to be authentic.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of censorship. That's like my biggest fight in the comic book world, right? If we, stop, attacking the J. Scott Camels, the Milo Maneras, and the Frank Chos of the world, and everyone just kind of stayed in their lane and let everyone do their own business, we'd be much better off. And comic books would sell more.
You know what I find interesting? Oh, go ahead, Max.
No, there's a quote by Frank Frazetta that I love to use in this every time this comes up. And he says, everyone knocks my female figures. They say they're overblown, that women don't look like that. And I agree. Certainly all women don't look like my paintings. But you can't deny that some women do look like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to paint just another woman. A painting, it's something important. You want to look at it, maybe forever. So who wants to look at just an ordinary hero forever? You want the ultimate. You pull out the stops and do everything in extremes. The extreme in beauty if it fits. The extreme in ugliness if it fits. The extreme in terror is if it's what's required. I think this is one reason that so many people enjoy my stuff, because all these extremes are just jammed into it.
And he's right. Look, we like things that are easy on the eyes. You know what I mean? There's a reason why when you go watch a soap opera, that most of the people in there are beautiful people. They're not ordinary people in a soap opera, right? They're gorgeous, unless if they're playing a villain, a grandmother or something. There's a reason why Chris Hemsworth is playing Thor and Scarlett Johansson is playing Black Widow. Okay. They're easy on the eyes. We like to look and watch beautiful people do cool things. It's no different in comics.
Yeah. And I found something very interesting too, Larry, that you are taking the brunt of, like, when people come after Naomi comic. I noticed something about it. They come after you, even though you never touched the pencil. You never touched the pencil. You never drew a line of that piece they're mad about. They come after you, and in a way that they kind of don't come after Marvel. They'll go after the artist. They'll go after you and say Larry Higgins is a sexist monster, and I think that's interesting.
Because I'm the face of I'm the figurehead of the book, right? I mean, lots of people work on it, but at the bottom, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, is I'm the one who makes it. I'm the one that pays for it. I'm the one that produces it, and nothing goes on an IOB comic book unless it gets the okay from me. So ultimately, I take all responsibility for it. So the attack should come to me, but they don't. I haven't really been attacked too hard lately. I was attacked more when the book first came out than I am now. I can tell you that, and because I think people just realize I'm not putting up with it.
Yeah, once they realize that they're not going to get a rise out of you or anything out of you, they'll just move on.
Yeah.
Hopefully they move on. Sometimes they are known to keep it going, try to get you canceled every much they can. I think that we all need to remember that this art is subjective. If someone asks, I was asked before about a character, where is that character's organs? And I'm like, well, that character isn't alive. They don't need them. And it's like, this is a cartoon character. This is a fictional character we're talking about. There's things when you look at art, sometimes you think people need an art education. When you look at art, you're looking at stylization. You're looking at someone's idea of what a character should look like. There's a very Lola-like character right there.
Look, we all got. Look at this beautiful cover, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
See, and there's Mary Machine Gun.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of thick. Don't get me wrong. So.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, see, I mean that's.
And that's not even like over the top sexy. That's just like a great action pose. Max has more sexier than that. You know what I mean? Like,
no, I would get in trouble. I'll get in trouble. We'll get in trouble. But like I said, this is like another company bought the right to have this one done for primetime Saturday night. I also have another one, but I can't really show it because again, it gets into nudity. But again, I would have people complain over virgin covers like this. They would complain about virgin covers like that.
I don't know why they would. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bizarre. So guys, not willing to change any of your books up, not willing to change any of your covers to
Look,
change
I'll
the
tell you
characters'
this.
art.
When we did Niobe #4, we had a really sexy cover for 4. She was like in this like black latex or like dominatrix outfit, you know, and that was the one that I took the most heat for. And I said, you know what? You think that's too sexy? Wait till the next one. You know what I mean? That's my attitude on it.
I guess the final question on this is that did J. Scott go too far? Should he have not replied? Should he have ignored it? What are your thoughts?
J. Scott's a fucking hero.
I like what he said at the end of his response, and that what made that response so great.
What did he say?
Nothing in art is ever perfect.
Yep.
It's like there's not going to be a perfect art piece. There's always going to be some type of mistake, some type of error that somebody else is going to see that they think needs to be fixed or anything. But it's that one particular thing that they see fixed that actually makes the artwork worthwhile.
I mean, I think he should be able to respond to it. I mean, he wasn't really like real prickish about it or anything. He was just, here's why I did what I did. He went through and explained every freaking line and every portion of the.
I mean, he pissed off a certain group of people. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You know, he pissed off 2 groups of people. He pissed off the CGers, but he also pissed off some of the hardcore people on the left because, you know, he's fighting against them and what they want. They want to censor him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, J. Scott Campbell, you know, put out a 2-page release on his Twitter that angered some people. And I cover it on Rebel Comics if anyone wants to go watch it. We'll probably talk about it on tonight's show. We're going to do the deep dive. But, you know, this has gone more viral in different places now than the original fix has. It's morphed into something else.
Yeah, it definitely has.
He's definitely started a dialogue that I'm glad to have. I'm glad to talk about these things because it's important. Unsolicited work, fixing of an artist's work. Being an artist myself, I probably would have gotten a little tight about it. Don't know if I would have had the time or taken the time to correct it. However, you know what? Maybe this is the line. Maybe it is the line in the sand.
If you made $16,000 per cover, maybe you had time. Maybe you'd have time to sit there and respond back to.
I wrote him a letter. I'm like, please do a cover for me. I had no idea what 16 grand. I'm gonna write him back. I retract my offer, sir.
Yeah, you know, who knows? He might do it for you. He might be like, you know what? I like you. Yeah, here. Yeah, I'm hearing 16 to 20K a cover, and if that's true, that's a car. That's a nice used car.
That's like
I'll tell you something. If you
mortgage for the year.
Get that done, that'd be gangbusters for a campaign right now. He, you know, speaking of that whole situation, and we might go in overtime. Please don't mind. But he went ahead and auctioned that drawing off, right? And as of last night, that drawing was at $8,600.
Yeah,
I have no idea what it's at now because it's been like 14 hours later.
He's giving it all away to charity too.
So I mean that you know, I mean that's the kind of money people are willing to pay, you know. I mean, plus it's going to charity, so people are probably going to put in more. But $8,600 for that sketch as of last night. Someone wants to look into it. I will do a cover for you for 160, Niobe. Comic book black belt. Who is that?
Oh, that's only for Larry. You wouldn't do that for me.
Yeah, that's Russ Leach. Only
do that for me, Russ.
Whoever you are, contact me on Facebook. Show me your stuff. Let's talk.
Yeah,
you know.
Wait. Hold on. You gotta tell the guy who did this to contact you on Facebook to tell you, oh, let me see your stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Are you familiar with Only Death Can Save Us,
Really?
Larry?
No, I don't think I am. No, that's why I'm asking. I don't know who he is.
Yeah. You guys can get in contact. He's a phenomenal artist. But yeah, so guys, thank you for joining me here on Special Issues. I really do appreciate it. You can contact any of these gentlemen. They are willing to talk to you beyond the show and pick up their books. And hopefully you won't get mad about the sexualization of their characters, their union stance, or their crowdfunding ideas.
Look, you're talking to the guy that started Bad Girl Academy group on Facebook, okay? Yeah. So there we go, guys.
I'll let you guys tell where you can be found at online and what your next project is, and we'll let you get out of here. I will start with Joe.
Okay, I am Joe D. McPhee, president of CGC Studios. I'm currently waiting for more of the colors to come in for Amazonia #7, which should be out. Hopefully, if everything works correctly here, sometime about October. We're probably going to crowdfund it sometime around then. That way, we'll have it ready for C2E2 in December. The next thing after that I'm working on, currently working on covers for the next issue of Primetime Saturday Night, kind of like the cover that I showed, a few moments ago here. Not that particular cover, but that's the same title and everything as well. So you could hit me up on Facebook, but you could get in contact with me through cgcstudios.com as well.
Very good. Max.
Okay. I'm Max DeVille. You can reach me at atrocitypress.com. That's where all my leftover Mary Machine Gun comic books are. They're available there, the overprint stuff. We just finished Neo Tokyo, The Truth is a Virus on Kickstarter. It'll be going into fulfillment here in about 2 weeks. And the third week of June, we should start the Mary Machine Gun issue 2 Kickstarter. If you want to meet,
very good, very good.
If you want to hit me up in any of the social medias, it's at Mary Machine Gun on everything.
Cool. And Larry, you're sharing a screen. I'm going to share it.
Yeah, brother. So I can be found on Facebook underneath Niobe Comic on Instagram, Niobe Comic on Twitter. We do comic book talk on Rebel Comics on every Sunday night, so we'll be on tonight. We're going to talk about the J. Scott Campbell stuff and probably some other things. Like I just wrapped up a campaign, Max just wrapped up a campaign, so we got nothing to chill. So topic night tonight. But what I'm showing here is what we got coming up next, right? So it's going to be Niobe Origins #1. It's going to be a one shot. We're working hard on it now. And this is the brand new colored cover by Dan O'Vera, just banging this out of park, of course, from one Mr. Matthew Weldon of Antarctic Press and Punchline. So this is like the latest cover that's going to be for Niobe Origins #1. We got a long list of names, including Justin Hunt of Lady Death fame, also joining us. Just secured him the other night. So hopefully we'll be running a campaign, I would say, in July.
Cool. Niobe is falling off her bike. We see that.
Well, what do you think? Is that sexy enough for you, Varian?
Yeah. And I know we'll get some emails about this show too. I'll make sure that I forward all emails to these three gentlemen here too. We may have to do a follow up at some point. Thank you guys.
This should be a 2-hour show. If we talk about the last time, that's a 2-hour show because I'm not going to back down from the standpoint. It's like, look, we don't control sexy. We don't control what you see as sexy. Here's the thing.
This could have been a 2-hour show on this topic alone, and it's probably going to be tonight. You know what I mean? If you want to come back on, gentlemen, we'll go through it again.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to take us out. Everyone have a great day. Remember to leave this comic book industry better than how you found it. We'll see you then.